Hello everyone, this is Eric with OzoneTCG. Today we're taking a look at the long-awaited Tri-Brigade Spright deck profile. If you guys like this, of course, and you want to pick up this deck, please be sure to use our TCG Player affiliate link in the description and take a look at our TCG Player shop in the meantime. So this was originally featured a couple days ago in a feature match with Renren and I. We were commentating over some of his matches. Kind of just wanted to explore this option for the deck. I think it's a pretty good budget option. It is not expensive at all, especially because Tri-Brigade has had a bunch of reprints over the last year and a half. It's just extremely cheap, even with the generic cards. The only bulk of the expense maybe going to be your side deck and maybe your staples and the Spright core, which of course Spright will always be expensive so long it hasn't been reprinted. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. We're going to take a look at the main deck first, go kind of core by core, segment by segment, and then the extra. We're not going to feature a side deck because a side deck will depend on the event, whether you're playing for locals, an OTS championship, a regional, YCS, etc. It's going to depend entirely on that. Really hard to decide there. There are some good choices like Twin Twisters and evenly matched Dark Ruler No More, Nibiru, etc. But it really depends on that. That'll be a choice you'll have to make on your own. We can always talk about that in a later theory video. As for the main deck, we're going to start off with the Tri-Brigade cards: 2 Nerval, 2 Karis, 3 Kit, 3 Fractal, 1 Revolt, double Tenki, and Foolish Burial. I consider Tenki and Foolish Burial Tri-Brigade cards simply because you're always going to be using them kind of together. So Foolish obviously sends Kit or Nerval to get you an extra body. Fractal does the exact same thing. Tenki does the exact same thing. Effectively, you're playing 6 Foolish Burials. You can make an argument to play more Karis. If you wanted to, you could just add a card or take out something like one of the later defensive cards. But really, Kit is going to be your normal summon, and it's nice because it doesn't have to be an odd normal summon trigger effect like Deep Sea Diva or Nimble Beaver. You can do your combos first with Spright, say some of your Spright stuff, whatever you want to do, and then use Kit's effect, and then combo from there. And that does actually come up quite a bit. It doesn't lock you into anything. Even the Gigantic Spright level 2 lock is actually fine for you because some of the best Link 2s are Tri-type, so Beast, Beast Warrior, and Winged Beast, and you can summon them after you do your combos and set up protection. Especially if you draw blue and Kit, you're probably in a very good position. Frigid is also one of the best Ultimate Slayer targets. It's another side deck option, or main deck option depending on your event. I think these are really good ratios, though. I actually don't think you need 3 of this, simply because you never really want to see this. We don't play Almirage. You can play Almirage in this deck, but we're not playing Almirage for the standard normal summon Nerval combo. That still requires another Tri-type, which not unlikely to see, but just another card you kind of don't want to have to draw if you don't need to, or have to play if you don't need to. Otherwise, I think these are pretty good ratios. I don't think you're ever going to need more than 1 Revolt. It is still a very good card, but honestly, the Spright cards just do everything the exact same way, and Revolt is there for insurance. If you guys like Tri-Brigade, you will probably like this deck. It's really fun to play. Honestly, I think it's my favorite Spright variant. Next up we have, speaking of which, the Spright cards. We of course have 3 blue, 3 jet, 1 red, 1 carrot, 3 starter, 1 smashers. Pretty standard ratios minus the red. Most Spright players are playing 2 red. I think you only need 1 for this version. It also triggers Kit if you or Frigid or Bearbrum. In case you use those, you tribute them for either carrot or red. But otherwise, pretty standard. I mean, this card just does everything. It's basically a free Revolt if you're doing your standard combos and you don't need Jet to search starter to continue your combos. You search Smash instead, and just insane removal to Mystic Mine out, which is something that Tri-Brigade has traditionally really struggled with, besides the combo variant playing some of the other Tri-Brigade trap cards. But really, that's it. These are relatively self-explanatory, and I think these are standard. This is, again, the most expensive part of the deck, besides the generic staples, which you should probably already have. Speaking of the generic staples course, 1 Call by the Grave. You have to play it. 3DD Crow, Tearlament, Winda. Your deck kind of plays through Winda, just the Tri-Brigade cards on their own. But I still think this card's just too good to not play right now. Triple Ash, best hand trap ever printed, probably best hand trap that ever will be printed. 1 Ghost Spell if you're playing in Nerval. The 3rd Nerval, you can cut this card, which is another option. 3 Valor, 3 Imperm. Valor, Imperm are insane. Really good versus Spright. You need 2 hand traps, generally speaking, so we want to maximize them. You could honestly play, 42, 43 cards and play something like Nibiru in the main instead if you want to, or pack up on Ghost Spells, or play Dark Ruler no more in the main. Totally up to you in your event. This is just what we've been testing. It's been fine. I don't have any complaints with it, but it definitely could probably use some more work in the future. We're going to go ahead and have a link of this in the description below. Make sure to check that out. Yugioh Pro Deck, they just updated the website. It looks fantastic. It's so much better to use. Please check them out. We are not sponsored by them officially, but I absolutely love the owner, Alan. He's fantastic. Make sure you check them out. Renren's a great writer on there too. As for the extra deck, 2 Frigid, 1 Bear Brum, Rugal, double Shreg. So that's going to be the Tri-Brigade names we play. Honestly, I don't like Rugal. I really have never liked the card. It's relevant, but it's fine to have as a Link 3. If you wanted to cut anything in the extra for, say, an Almirage, it could be this guy. You just don't need him anymore. He does basically the exact same thing as Spright Elf, except Spright Elf is just better in this case. The attack reduction's like okay at best. Some of the combos, though, you do need the 2 Frigid, but that's pretty standard at this point. You can make a case to play the 3rd Shreg. Shreg and some of your combos, you can actually search DD Crow, another reason why we play that. But otherwise, I think these are pretty standard ratios as well. Then we have some of the generic cards. We have Desperate Doom Eagle. This is your kind of in extra deck theme-ish out to some of the tier cards. It's a free DD Crow every turn, shuffles them into the deck, so it causes them to resolve without their effect properly. Definitely the best Link 3 to play now. That's always been a target. You have to play this card if you aren't, but I think most people are playing it anyway. And then Ancient Warriors, Oath, Double Dragon Lords, always been standard, always will be standard. A Link 2 you can summon after protecting your board from Nibiru. Yeah, you have to play it. Then one of the new cards, Scareclaw Lightheart. So for some reason they made this completely generic as far as using it with Tri-Brigade effects. You don't have to Link summon it at all. Normally Scareclaw, this is actually an insane card for Scareclaw, which there's a Scareclaw Tri-Brigade version we're not going to talk about. But we don't actually care about its effect whatsoever, even though it is insane as a card for that theme. Here, it is just a Link 1 Beast Warrior Link effect, so your kit automatically becomes a combo for free. Really, that's it. It adds a lot to the theme, simply because, again, it's a Link 1, so it turns a lot of old brick hands into not-so-dead hands, or really good combo hands, really depending on the kind of interruption your opponent has. But generally speaking, it's just good. I think you only need one in this case, and you'll never actually Link summon it because it requires a Scareclaw monster or a Beast of Starfrost. But fantastic option. I'm really glad this card came out, and it's just a cool card to have. And then for the Spright cards, now this was a little bit different than what we were theorizing originally. We are playing 3 Spright Elf, and you can cut the 3rd Spright Elf for fighting Darumidol. That's a complete option too. I think it, again, depends on if you're afraid of back row, if you don't respect it, or if you do respect it, depending. But you need to play at least 2 of these guys. Spright Elf revives your kit every single turn, or Karis. I mean, usually you're going to do kit, and then it just provides protection, targeting protection, so they can't Crow, they can't Veiler. They just can't target the cards it points to. You'll summon kit to a zone it points to. If you happen to use kit mid-combo, don't use its effect to start your turn. You can use it later on with protection after you lock your opponent from using Nibiru on you, etc. Even something like Phantasme. Not that anyone's playing it, but there are just more options. Cards should not have been printed. It's insane. I'm really glad this deck can use it quite well. And speaking of which, of course, the 1 Gigantic. If you want to play 2, you probably can. You can just cut the Elf or cut the Elf for Almirage, anything like that. Bunch of options here. But this Gigantic Spright is literally just summon one of your level 2s from the deck, whether it be a Spright or a Tri-Brigade, depending on which card you can really maximize starting with in your hand. Nothing more to say about them. It's kind of standard. Most Spright decks play 2. Again, I don't think you need to, since you don't need to resolve this card necessarily to really play the games, because your toolbox of Link monsters is way more generic. But for the generic cards, we have Pit Knight early. This card, again, I don't know why they printed it as a common. It could have been a secret rare, probably would have just been as good. Card's very, very, very strong. It is a completely generic 2 effect monsters, Link 2, and it has really good arrows for this deck specifically. Frigid and Bear Brum point downwards, so you can point to them. You can trigger it off Revolt, you can trigger it off whatever you want, basically. Spright Elf. All your link arrows besides Scareclaw Lightheart are good cards it points to, and then you can also summon it to another zone, put your monster to the right of Pit Knight, and trigger its effect. It is a quick effect, and it's really hard for them to actually out. It reduces the attack to 0 as well, so you don't necessarily need the last card, which is, of course, Access Code, which is pretty standard. But Pit Knight really makes it so you don't need your Link 4s or even your Link 3s to win matches. You can honestly usually win your games by just playing your Spright cards and your Link 2s, such as Double Dragon Lords and Pit Knight. That is how insane some of these Spright cards are. Again, if you guys want to pick them up, TCG player as always. I really want to experiment more with this variant. I like the way this plays more because I like playing Spright as more of a combo deck rather than... It feels more mid-range with the Toad cards. It is still, I guess, technically combo, but they all the cards just lead into each other, and it always feels generic. But with this variant, I think there's a lot to offer, especially being able to search DD Crow depending on how popular tier limit becomes later on, especially once the Ishizu cards are out in November. And as always, thank you for watching.